This video is one of a series of at least 3, maybe 4. I hope to take you on a trip for a special parachute mobile activation in Amelia Island, Florida. Come with me on a long road trip. It is the beginning of December 2024. The Midwest is getting colder, and the smart skydivers head south to spend the winter down in places like Florida, Texas, Southern California, Colombia, Australia, or even the Philippines. This is a road trip, so I'm staying in the North American continent. Earlier this year, Wayne approached me with a request. Could you make a parachute mobile jump for the kids in my school? My initial response was, maybe. There are a lot of things that need to be cleared before one makes such a jump in a place that's not an existing drop zone. You have to file paperwork with the FAA and get clearance. You have to get a jump plane and a pilot. Neither's cheap. Of course, you have to have a landing area that I can land safely at. His reply was, well, where's the nearest drop zone? So off to the USPA website, we went looking. It turns out that there's a drop zone about an hour and change south of where Wayne lives. One hurdle overcome. The next hurdle, I found out they only do tandem jumps there. No worries. If we don't ask, we're already at a no, and we really lose nothing by asking. So I called them.
Hello, Skydive Amelia Island.
Hello. I understand that you only do tandem jumps. I'm a licensed skydiver. I wonder if you might allow me to tell you about a special request, and if you still say no, I'll understand.
Tell me about your request.
So there's this school in southern Georgia. They have a teacher that is an amateur radio operator, and he's teaching these kids about science, technology, engineering, and math through the use of amateur radio. I happen to be a licensed amateur radio operator, and for fun, I make high pulls. This is a term we use for opening the parachute higher than normal. And I take my radio on my high pull jumps, and I talk to people from up there while under the parachute. The teacher has asked me if I could make such a jump for the kids in his class. Is this something you might consider making an exception to your only tandem jumps policy?
Wait a minute, you do what?
I take the radio with me on high pulls. I turn it on, and I talk to people while under the parachute.
And these kids want to talk to you? Why?
Because it's kind of a novelty, and then they can see how all this stuff works.
And this is for a school, like a class?
Yes. I will also be going to their school and teaching a class about how parachute systems work and how science, technology, engineering, and math are all involved in just about everything we do, including jumping out of an airplane and talking on the radio.
When were you thinking about doing this?
Well, sir, ideally late November or early December of this year, if that works within your operating times. If not, we can shift it and make it work for your operations.
And this is for kids, right?
Yes, sir. Kids in a K-12 school.
Well, make the arrangements to come down and let me know the dates, and I'll make sure you get your jump in.
Thank you, sir. I will talk to their teacher and arrange dates.
I love the idea of kids learning this kind of stuff.
So off I go and I call Wayne. Wayne, this is what I have. Does that work? Turns out it does, and we make arrangements. We set a date and a time. We set a backup plan in case of weather. Spoiler alert, we needed the backup plan. Always make a plan, a backup plan, and a backup to the backup plan. Our plan is for me to be in the classroom Thursday afternoon. In the classroom, we're going to talk about how the parachute operates and how I use radios when I jump. The aerodynamics of how the parachute flies. Science. How I keep track of my altitude and how it works. Technology. How the parachute is designed. Engineering. How I know where to get out so that I land in the proper place. Math. How the radio works in broad strokes. Technology. How radiation from the radio antenna behaves. Science. How raising the height of the antenna impacts the distance it can cover. Math. The primary jump date is set for Friday at noon. The backup jump date is Saturday at noon, The backup to the backup is Sunday at noon. Wayne's job is herding cats. He's got to get all these parents and all these students on the same sheet of music for this field trip. My job, a lot easier. All I have to do is get there and do my part. So it is roughly a 14.5-hour drive from my house to Brunswick, Georgia. I'm going to break this into a couple of days of driving because I'm not as young as I used to be. I have an army buddy that lives just south of Atlanta, Georgia. That'll be my first stop. My first stint is 10.5 hours. That gives me time to meet up with my army buddy and have dinner with him. I spent the night at his house, and the next day I set off for Brunswick, Georgia. The drive on the plains of Indiana is kind of boring in a good way. There isn't much to see from Fort Wayne until about Seymour. Flat land and fairly straight lines on the interstate. The only major feature on that path is the city of Indianapolis. Once you get past Seymour, Indiana starts showing features on the land. Hills, ridges, contours that are visible. Changes to the landscape that are great. The next major feature on the road, the city of Louisville, Kentucky. Not much to be seen of it from the highway, just urban development and traffic. Oh look, the river! More city, and then back to countryside. My favorite. Kentucky and Tennessee have some stunning views even from the highway. If you ever have a chance to make that trip, I highly recommend it. The next traffic holdup, major city on the path is Nashville. Once you clear the traffic there, we have more gorgeous countryside driving at highway speeds. The River Gorge, just west of Chattanooga, is something to behold. Had I not been in a push to make it to southern Atlanta on a timeline, I would have pulled off here and taken some pictures. Through Chattanooga and on to more eye-candy driving through the north side of Georgia. My GPS alerts me that if I don't get off the interstate soon, I'm going to be in a parking lot soon. Near Cartersville, Georgia, I go off the beaten path. By way of Dallas, then Douglasville, South Fulton, and I land at Peachtree City for the night. I meet up with my buddy, and we have a great dinner. If you ever find yourself in Peachtree, go to the Beirut, one of the best meals I have had in my life. The next morning, I set off for Brunswick. I drive through Fayetteville, Lovejoy, McDonough. Once I get going, I realize that there's a lot of downed trees. It takes me a few miles, but then I realize that the path of Hurricane Helene and Milton have scarred this area. Through Forsyth, Macon, Fort Stewart, and Savannah. I skirt Richmond Hill, Midway, and Darien. I arrive a little later than expected. Sometime life gets in the way of our plans, no matter how many contingencies we make. Into the classroom we go. Understand that while the parents of these kids signed a waiver allowing me to video and do all that jazz, I didn't want to make the classroom time part of this video. I wanted to make the classroom time about them, not about the video. Amanda was very kind and took some pictures while I was in there, and she gave me permission to use them here. I can tell you that the kids range in age from K through 12 age groups, that they had great questions, and that they enjoyed the mix-up of the subjects we talked about. We watched a couple of different videos of the process of making a parachute mobile jump. Also, they dig the stickers. So that's the end of the first stint, and the end of this video. The next video is the attempt to go parachute mobile on Friday. So stay tuned, and we'll see you on the next one. 7-3.